Hello, this is Vance, and this is Wednesday, January the 4th, 2017. And these are the CL trades for today using the slow hand method for price action. We had a fairly tight range today. I think it was a carryover from yesterday or yesterday afternoon. And in fact, the high of the day, or the overnight high, was right at 52.96, so it's just short of 53. It occurred right here. Price came back down, and just before the open, and I think it was right here, is this is 841, I think it was, and that price bottomed out at 52.32. So it was just really about here. You can, and I hope you can see this, is that if you look at it from the standpoint of when price opened yesterday from the overnight, or at 6 o'clock when the contract traded started trading again, we had price kind of dipped down to here, made the high, and then kind of bounced off of this area, and then kind of really had a pullback here, but then pulled back in this area and down here as well. Now, I marked a couple trades here. I saw this was the top. You think that maybe the top might be, this is the high of the day. So, price might retrace to this area. But we had this bounce at this point, kind of double topped right here very quickly. You can see it almost triple topped. Price traded down to this area in the overnight session. This was pretty early in the morning. It was 5:30, 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Price moved back up, rejected at this area again, moved back down. Now, here's a second entry long right here, or right on this one. So price makes a new first entry, second entry long. The trouble with this is that when you're trading in a range, you don't know if this is going to come down here to trade you out. And of course, when your 15 tick stop box is in here, your 15 ticks is going to be right here someplace. Okay, and even though you've got a target is 15 ticks, your stop is down here. Now, I always look at where my stop is going to be before I place a trade. Where's my risk? And the question you want to ask yourself, like I ask myself, is that if I'm going to take a trade here long, where is it going to come back to, and how much will I'm willing to pay? And if the standard answer is 15 ticks or $150 on a contract, then the risk has to be 1-to-1. So if the target is within 15 ticks, but my stop, where's the support? Well, in this case, the support should be here. This is where the support should be. Now, why is that? Because this is where the low of the day was, or currently the low of the day. You could argue that this was kind of resistance in this area as well. So if your stop is below this area, you might be all right. Okay, I'm not saying that you aren't, but given that we've already had this move up, it's not moving unbroken. We have these pullbacks in this area. Now, I'm talking overnight as well. I'm just using this as an example. Let's say this is regular trading hours. Price has a strong move down. This is the first move, pulls back, second move down. Are we going to get another measured move down here of this magnitude? I mean, is this what's going to happen in this case? Well, you don't know that. So even though this is a pretty strong, this is a second entry long, I don't know whether it's worth enough to take. And as you can see, when this painted, it was down. Wasn't really a strong move down, but then we have this move up here, and then we have a pullback. By this time, it's really too late because you really don't have your 15 ticks there. In fact, let's take a look at it. You really don't. So you don't have it when you get in here. It does touch it, but that's pretty close. In this case, let me just move this down. Just show this again. In this case, looking where your entry is going to be, if your entry is down here, it's just below these. It's not below the bottoms here. You need an entry. If you limit it in, even then, it just wouldn't get down there, okay? So what I'm saying is that when you're looking at trading, especially when you're starting out and it's a fairly narrow range, we don't have a trend one way or the other, especially from the overnight, you want to look at where are those highs, where do we see an area that we could consider a range where those double tops exist. And as I mentioned, the double tops are up here, right across this area. So when price does get up here and we have this capitulation, then this is the place to go short. Now again, this is before the open. This is 8:30, so it's just a pre-market. And can you take a trade here? I think this is a much better option, and the reason is that you can put your stop in here. You're above this one. You may not be above the high of the day unless you really have some chutzpah and you put a limit order right on this at 79. But the point is that even if you get in even if you drop a buy stop at or a sell stop at 52.72, it's still ample room to get down to these areas and perhaps to migrate to the other end of the channel, and or where where these previous double triple bottoms were. And that's in fact what does happen. Price does make its way down here. It would have been worked. You would have gotten your first two contracts off had you gotten in there. Your first contract's off before it gets here, and it kind of blows right through there, so you get both of those off. Now, if you would have hung on to that trade, you could have rode it right down to this area as well. But whether or not you did or not on these pullbacks, that's a question mark. I wasn't here for this. I didn't see this. Didn't get here until after 8:30, so I missed this area right here. Just wasn't ready. Now, we did have this bounce, and this is where I really kind of started thinking about what the structure of the day was going to be. And when you look at it from the perspective of, we had this, this appears to be the area of support right across here. Now, how price reacts at this now, was this low enough? Well, I thought this was low enough to bounce, considering this area here, and as a result, I thought it was going to retest this area and perhaps continue on upwards. See how price got up to there, of course. Now, by putting in my stop, when I put this trade on, I put this trade on right at this level. It was just near the open. It was 9:01, so it was kind of early. I marked it green because it's really only a first entry. But the reason I looked at it as more than that is just a first entry is that price makes a high, gets up, pulls back the first time, it moves up first time, pulls back. So it really is. I kind of thought it was more rejection. It is just on this chart, it is just a first entry. That's why it's in green. But my stop is below this area, and remember, you don't have any of this. You don't know what it's going to look like. So what I'm looking at is, I'm just looking at, from this perspective, I'm just looking at this at the right hand side of the chart. And if I'm just looking at this, let me stretch this out a bit, I'm thinking that on this basis, we have enough room to get to this other side. And so that's what I was expecting. Now, what exactly happened? Well, on that entry, price just made it. In fact, I think that's what it is, 41. I got in at 41. Yeah, I'm on the pullback. That's what happened. I limited in on the pullback. And so price came down here. I limited in on at 41. It got to just 56, just made it, and then turned around and headed back in the other direction. So I was looking at thinking that, using that as the example, I was thinking that the lower I can get in, I limited in on this one. Right across here is support. That's what I was looking at. And so I was looking at, because I thought this area was going to be support, I thought that price was going to be heading up to this other side of the channel and then perhaps breaking out. And the reason I was thinking that is because of yesterday. And if you look at yesterday, look where price really stacked up. Yesterday afternoon, the low was 52.11. I didn't know if we were going to get down there. I didn't think so. Unfortunately, it did. It actually it got down to 15, so it bounced there. But I was looking for longs off of this area, and at the bottom of what I perceived as being this range. And so that's why I was looking at trades here. Now, this trade here in fuchsia didn't work. In fact, what you look at is that if it's under the same premise as this, there wasn't a second entry. There's only a first entry. So, if you're looking at doing the same thing, getting in on something like this, let's say that you move up you're taking into this consideration, would you have taken this trade? This would be an aggressive trade, any stretch of the imagination. It's really only a first entry, and it doesn't really give you enough room to get out. So that's why I marked this one. I mean, this is something that, if it works, it's great. If not work, well, it's almost a second entry. You get this first pullback, fails, you get another pullback. So even though this clears it by a couple of ticks, what you want to look at in this one is to get at least to your target. And if this is your target, this double top, it has to be the new target because of the double top here. That's the consideration. Now, if you limit in, you're okay, but boy, you have to limit it on this bar, and whether it comes back and by a couple of ticks, it's pretty doubtful. So that's what I was looking at. That's what I was thinking on this area. That's why I marked this one in fuchsia. Now, when price gets to this level, now at the top, could you take a short here? Now, I should have marked this in fuchsia as well. the point is that if we are rotating here and if we have a tight stop and it's only 15 ticks, right? It's only 15 ticks, a 15 tick range here. If you're looking at selling, you have to sell near the top of this. And so that means that when we have this first entry, second entry short, you really have to get in here. Your stop is above this, but you see your target is really short. As it turns out, the only way you could negate the shortness of the target is to perceive that this is really going to complete the second leg down of a measured move. And if that's what you're looking at from here, it was a measured move. It did go down right to this area. Now, that's kind of structure you'd be looking at. I didn't take this trade. I could see that you can make an argument of taking that trade, but again, we're getting really close to these bottoms, and I didn't think the bottom was going to be here. Turns out that that's what it was. I thought the bottom was really a little bit higher than that. I figured it was about 52.30 at max, not 52.15. So it's another 15 ticks. It's pretty close. It's not that far off. Now, once price did, I thought this was an overshoot. Well, it was a measured move. It was this measured move down here, but I also thought that maybe it could have been an overshoot of this range here. Now, talking about an overshoot for a range, more than 80% of all breakouts fail. So if this is a failed breakout, if you consider if your first target's only 15 ticks, then it was successful. Where do you get in? Like, you get in right here and playing the breakout, and you have to look at it going further than that. So if it doesn't give you 2-to-1, 3-to-1, 4-to-1, if you're entering at the bottom of this breakout, then in my opinion, it was just an overshoot. And that's in fact what it appeared to me to be. It overshot. Now, the reason that I believe that is that you can see when price came back down there, it really took it all back in almost immediately. And this is, to give you some of the timing here, this was by the time it broke down here, this is 9:36 right here, 9:36. Here, this return, this is 9:50. So we're talking 7 minutes down, 7 minutes up, roughly, to get back to this area. So, to my mind, that's not a breakout pattern. It's more like an overshoot pattern. Now, we did have it did rotate down a little bit more. I like this trade because, again, 15 ticks gets you to this very top, very close to this top, but your stop is below what I just mentioned was maybe just an overshoot. And so that's why I think I like this trade. It was an aggressive trade, of course, but I was expecting it to come retest this area or maybe retest this other side. On this leg, it didn't. It came up to the top and pulled back. I was sitting here break even with 2 contracts, and then it took me out down here. Now you can see that it tried to get up a couple of times, didn't move, came back here, took me out, but I had the wherewithal to get right in right away again. And the reason I got right in is that for the same premise, for the same reason. I thought it was still valid. I saw that my stop was down here. I felt it was still looking at the other side, and it really broke out, and the move went to the other side. So it took off my first 2 contracts very quickly. In fact, once it broke through the top of this channel at the 1044, it made up another from here from 40, let's call it from 41 to 72. These 30 ticks, roughly, took a matter of 2 minutes. So there was I'm not saying that I was thinking there were other individuals out there thinking the same lines, that this was the bottom. And in fact, price did give an opportunity to pull back a couple of times. There's a couple of pullbacks. The new established at the bottom of this channel is here. And then from here, you could have gotten in on this one with your stop being below, very close to this area here, where the area of previous resistance is now support. And in here. And because of that, and the other thing is I was looking at, this was going to be another leg up. I was looking for another leg up of one of these here. It could have, and this is really like 2 pullbacks. Now this is a second entry on this little doji. Didn't quite like it. Didn't think of it as it was too early. First entry, second entry. You could have taken that trade, I suppose, but I wanted to see a little more confirmation. See how it was going to respond to this area. Pulls back down, gives you a strong bar. First move up, of course, backs off. Again, first entry, second entry long right here, and this time this is, if we consider this is the first attempt to go through, second attempt, by the third attempt it really rocketed out of there. And so when it broke through here, not only did it give you this, but it gave you even more so. So that's what I was looking at. And this was basically the trade of the day right through here. If you were able to get in on this trade and hold on to it and even add on here, I mean, this is a good place to add on. You could have ridden this thing for the rest of the day. And by that time, like by 12 o'clock, after this pullback, it happened at noon. We had this pullback. Wasn't convinced that it was going to come back down here. Mind you, I had to go. I wasn't even here. I had to leave at just afternoon. I had an appointment at 1 o'clock. So this was pretty much the last thing that I saw is up to this area. But from the rest of the day, it really kind of channeled. So we didn't really get any more movement here. And this is where we are right now. So can you take a trade in this area? I don't know. Once this move took place, it really started to capitulate. Yes, you could trade within here. I didn't, but you can. There's a couple of trades in here. I mean, certainly there's a not about a long here. I don't know about taking long here because we're quite a ways from the EMA. Wait for a break or wait for confirmation along the bottom, and this drops into an extremely tight range, and this range is like a 15 ticks. Look how tight that is. We're talking 10 ticks. And so this is really stacking up side by side. Again, like here, price does meander down here, and then we have a strong bull bar out of this. Do you take this? Do you take the second entry long off of this? First entry pulls back, second entry long. First entry pull back, second entry long off this doji right here, or this bear bar. I mean, right across here, you can see these are stacking up, and this is really tight. Look how tight that is. That's from 15 on the bodies to 10, 5 ticks. And this is over a period of, this is 11:49 to 12:09. So we're talking 20 minutes of less than 10 ticks. We're talking, prices rotating in this area. One of two things is going to happen. It's either going to go up or it's going to go down. Is there enough? Is it building momentum to take it higher? I think this was a trap. I think this really quick move down here was a trap, but you don't know that. And when you see it, and then, of course, from there, had you gotten in on this, when this closes, not a bad trade, pretty aggressive again. You don't really have any support to your left-hand side. You're in kind of no man's land here, and you got your first contract off. But from an entry at here at 12:21, by the time you get your first contract off, it's half an hour later. 24 minutes. You wait through all that? No, this is toward, this is right now, of course. And so for the rest of the day after that, by 2 o'clock, no, it was just really nothing in here that I could really see. I mean, you can limit in near these bottoms if you have that wherewithal. But again, from here is this 1 o'clock. Down here, this is 2 o'clock. So for 2 o'clock, most of the time it's spending this little narrow channel, about 10 ticks before it drops down here. So I think most of the move took place before noon, like late morning, and this was it right here. Looks like buyers were looking at taking prices higher right from the opening, and once price got to the 53, just over $53, it kind of stalled out. Now, are we going to come back and take back some of this move tomorrow? Hard to say. Tomorrow is going to be interesting because tomorrow is the DOE report, and the Department of Energy report is tomorrow. And are we going to pull all this back in here? Is this what's going to happen? Because this was from yesterday. Is it going to retrace up into this area? Interesting to see. We'll see. We'll have an indication of that. We should have an indication of that tomorrow. We'll see how price starts up tomorrow or in the overnight. But that's right now we're sitting at 53.37, and the peak out yesterday was over 55.06, 55.25. So it's $2 over. We brought some of it back in. Whatever the expectation is, we might get some more in tomorrow. So you might be looking long tomorrow as well. Don't know about that. Anyway, those are the trades. That's what I saw today. If you have any other questions, please let me know. You can get a hold of me, SlowAndMethod at Gmail. Send me your Skype address. I'll stick you on my list. You know, I don't know what I'm doing. There's been a couple of people that I've had a couple of chats with, I've asked some questions and so forth. So, you know, if you have any interest in that regard, I'm always willing to talk trading, particularly when it's double the CL. I think there's some kind of interesting ideas. And, you know, particularly if you're trading price action. I mean, I'm familiar with some of the other stuff as well, but always interested in talking about trading. So if you give me a call, or if you give me a call, send me an email, and I'll be able to, and I'll respond. Anyways, this is Vance. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.